What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host, Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel whenever you do that. Additionally, you can become a patron. Not only is that the best way to support the channel, but you'll get to vote weekly on a deck tech that I cover whenever you do that. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsom, you rock. Now, let's get into today's deck tech upgrade with the Indoraptor. And just a brief explanation of what the deck is trying to do. This is a Dragon's Approach deck. So we're trying to cast upwards to 2 Dragon's Approach and then cast our commander for him to equal 21 power. Now that kind of sounds like a lot of mana, but we're running a ton of cost reducers to really reduce that and make it possible. And even if we only cast him after 1 Dragon's Approach, he will enter with 12 power, and that's just going to be super abusable. Our Life's Legacy, our Greater Good effects are just going to draw us a ton of cards, and then I've even added Ruthless Technomancer to the deck so we can generate a ton of mana, and after that the dragons are just going to be the perfect toolbox that ties this deck together. Clouth can generate mana along with Old Gnawbone. Corvold can draw us a lot more cards after we generate a ton of treasure tokens. And then we're also running Nullspine Dragon that enters the battlefield after we deal a ton of damage to our opponents and draws us a ton of cards. Now, let's get onto the upgrade aspect of this video. And guys, if you would like and comment down below if you want more of these. I hear a lot, or sometimes I'll get someone comment on one of my older videos. Have you upgraded this? Do you plan to upgrade this? And if you guys want more videos like this, I really need to see the demand. So a like and a comment saying that you love these would really go a long way. But what we're going to go through today is the 14 cards I've added and the 14 cards I've taken out, and why exactly I've taken out some of those cards. With some of the cards, like Backdraft Dragon, it did exactly what I wanted to do, but then I realized I never get to that point, right? The theory was we attack with Backdraft Dragon, and then we get to cast all of our Dragon's Approach from our graveyard, our Life's Legacy effects from the graveyard, and then draw a ton of cards, and it leads us into kind of a storm turn where we win the game. The deck just never got to that point because it ended up being a lot faster than I intended. So Backdraft Dragon just kind of started to be useless and never did the thing that I intended it to do. And you guys will find this with the decks that you build. After playing it a couple times and getting to see every single card in your deck, you start to realize this just doesn't do what I wanted to do. So now we're going to go through the deck's weaknesses, the way that I found we can make it more efficient, and after I've upgraded it a little bit, I do think it's a little bit faster. And just to show you how to mull, because that's another thing people were commenting on the older video, I love the idea of the deck. When it works, it's really awesome, but sometimes you just brick, and when you brick in a Dragon's Approach deck, you brick hard. So people are having trouble mulling with this deck and figuring out what hand they can keep and what hands they need to toss away. So we're going to do a little bit of that, and we're going to throw in a little bit of playtesting on top of that. Again, if you enjoyed the idea of this video series, make sure to give it a lot of love. Let's get into it. All right, let's get into the cards that I added. The first thing I added was Altar of the Wretched. This is going to be very good here. It can draw us upwards to 12 or 21 cards depending on how big our commander is, and then it will mill us that amount of cards as well. This puts a high likelihood of us getting 6 Dragon's Approaches in the graveyard almost immediately, and even drawing into one. This makes it to where the next one we cast will be able to go ahead and cheat a dragon into play. Now, if we mill a dragon, that's going to suck, but we put Ruthless Technomancer in the deck to help mitigate that feels bad, right? He can just sacrifice a ton of treasure tokens to reanimate them from the graveyard. And remember, when our commander's 12 to 21 power, 12 to 21 treasure tokens does just reanimate any of these dragons. Even with Clouth, it's going to be a cost reduction because he only has 4 power. We're also on Agadeem's Awakening. This has always been in the deck, but you know, there is versatile ways to bring our dragons back from the graveyard. Moving on to other cards we added to the deck, we have our Seize the Spoils, Big Score, Unexpected Windfall, and Faithless Looting effects. Sometimes those Dragon's Approaches just get stuck in your hand, and this is a very good way to get them out of your hand. And it's just going to make mulling easier whenever you see a bunch of Dragon's Approaches, but you have a Big Score or Seize the Spoils in your hand. You're like, okay, I can get rid of these, get them in the graveyard, and draw into hopefully useful cards. Another card we got on is Semblance Anvil. I found that this was just way more efficient than Urabrask because Urabrask is 4 mana and the backside of him ended up never coming up because the deck was too fast for it. So swapping him out for Semblance Anvil is just going to be more efficient here. Sometimes our dragons did get stuck in our hand as well. So Sneak Attack's going to be good. Now we can just cheat them directly into play. We don't care if they end up in our hands. And Sylvan Library, kind of the same thing here, right? We can look at the top 3, make sure our dragons stay on top, and that we're drawing into our key pieces. Something notable about Sylvan Library as well is if you notice our commander's 3 mana. So we want to be casting him turn 3 or even turn 2. So having something that comes down before our commander that's card advantage is pretty important. Valakut Awakening saw an include here. It's a land, so it's super flexible. And then again, this deck does have a tendency to draw upwards to 20 cards, and maybe half of those are lands. So Valakut Awakening makes it very easy for us to like discard 10 lands, draw 11 cards, and it's going to ensure that you're just getting cards that you need. Wheel of Misfortune, another one that's going to help us out with our moles, right? If we see a cost reducer in our hand and just a bunch of dragons approaches, as long as we have a Wheel of Misfortune, we're kind of okay with keeping that because we're just going to wheel into another hand as well. It's also does have a little bit of synergy with our commander if we can get one of our opponents to take a ton of life. Relentless Assault, this is in the deck just because I oftentimes found myself needing one more combat step to end the game out. Like I had all the pieces, I had all the mana, I just needed one more combat step to maybe draw a little more cards off of Korvold or generate a little bit more treasure tokens off of Old Gnawbone, and then I could have ended out the game. But I didn't have any extra combat spells in the deck, so that's why Relentless Assault made the cut. Eldritch Evolution, also pretty good here. I mean, Eldritch Evolution is a really good card. But the problem was, sometimes you'd cast something like a Nullspine Dragon, and that's all it did all game. After that, it's just a 7/5 beater. Now, you could sacrifice this to your Life's Legacy, your Greater Good effects, so it wasn't necessarily dead, but sacrificing it to Eldritch Evolution to get any creature out of your deck is just better. Additionally, it's very good for your mana dorks, right? If we have Ignoble or Birds on the battlefield, we can easily sacrifice it to get Burgy or Goblin Electromancer. Just better cards that synergize with the deck a little bit more. Moving on to like the cards we cut. Again, Backdraft Dragon, just too slow. Didn't do what I wanted to do. Sword of Feast and Famine did exactly what I wanted to do. But I found that if I found myself in that point, that was like my last ditch effort to win the game. And cards that are only good in your last ditch effort are probably worth cutting from your deck. Smoldering Egg, again, did exactly what I wanted to do. But in a scenario where it was doing what I wanted it to do and pinging the commander whenever I cast a spell, I was already on my way to winning the game, right? It did exactly what I needed it to do, but when I needed it, I was already winning. So cards that are good when you're winning are probably some of the first cards you should cut when you upgrade the deck. The Ozolith, same thing here. If I had a massive commander and I kept sacrificing him and just getting more counters on it, the deck was already doing exactly what I needed it to do. And then it kind of was awkward because the counters get put on him at the start of combat, and a lot of the times you go to combat, deal a lot of damage, then sacrifice your commander. That way, whenever you cast him again, you've already done 21 damage to someone and he enters in as like a 24/24. It's just better to go to combat, deal the damage, because that's how the deck works better for that. Florian, again, really good when you're ahead and you have a massive commander, but does nothing if you don't. Kodama Reach, Cultivate, again, too slow for the deck. Minx and Boo wasn't terrible, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them cut from the deck, but I want to try the new cards that I added before I add them back in. Momentous Fall, I cut this for Altar of the Wretched. Again, we'll see how many times that mills my dragons and maybe Altar gets cut and Momentous Fall gets put back in. But it's just something we have to test whenever we're seeing what works in the deck and what doesn't. Zeatora, the Incinerator. Again, this card did exactly what I expected it to do, which was win the game. But whenever you're dealing that much damage to a player, you've already won the game. You really didn't need Zeatora to do it. You just chose that Zeatora was going to be the way that you ended the game, right? We don't need to sacrifice our commander to Zeatora to kill a player whenever we can just use something like Pyrohemia and kill them a lot easier that way. So that explains what we added and what we cut. Let's scroll down, look at some opening hands, and see if we keep them or not. Let's deal another hand. Okay, so we've got Dragon's Approach, Dragon's Tempest Core. This is an easy ship. No card advantage. The best plan we have is maybe to get in the Korvold, but I don't see that working for us very well. We do have haste and extra combat. It's close, but just not there. This one, a little bit better, right? We have an easy cost reducer, Chandra's Ignition in hand, and a dragon that can draw us cards. We do see the game plan, but again, this is going to take a little bit to set up because that is 7 mana, that's 5 mana, but we do know we can get our commander down fairly easy. The only thing we're missing is a Dragon's Approach, so we're kind of just hoping we draw into that, and that's our very next card. So this was going to be a pretty solid keep because you can kind of see the game plan and where you're going. And then we draw into Life's Legacy, Jessica's Will. Again, this is... we kind of got lucky on the top deck there, but those are the hands you want to look for. You see the game plan, and if the game plan doesn't work out, casting your commander into, and then Dragon's Mage later, going late game, you're a little bit okay with that. Looking at this, I'm keeping this because I see 4 lands. This is probably not a land, but it is, you know. And then I see Black Market Connections, along with Unexpected Windfall. So we have our Dragon's Approach. We have a way to create a changeling to deal a little bit more damage. So we're probably dealing 12 damage whenever we cast our commander. And then we have our Unexpected Windfall to draw us into a little bit more cards. So if we draw into a Dragon's Approach, we don't have to cast that one. We'll just cast the other one, draw 2 cards, make a treasure token. See? And that's what happened. So this one, keep for sure. This one, a cost reducer, Life's Legacy, Jessica's Will. We just have to draw into a Dragon's Approach, and we're looking very good. Haste, Dragon's Approach, there we go. And see, this is what you want to look for. Card advantage in the opening hand, and a solid gameplay for the first at least 3 turns. And then the deck's going to do what you want it to do. Now, these are the sketchy hands. These are the hands where you're like, okay, if I draw into a land, this is going to be an amazing game. And if I don't, we're kind of screwed. Now, I will say it's a little bit easier to do that in casual when we're running upwards to, I think we're on 35 lands. That's deceiving because we have MDFCs in the deck. So let's see where we get it. We're gold fishing, right? So it's good to kind of see where the deck goes. Let's playtest this one. We'll draw a card, Dragon's Approach. That's fine. We need a black source. We will crack the Scalding Tarn to get a red-black source, and then we're missing green then. That's okay. We're going to do that. We're going to find our red-black source. Am I going to find my red-black source? Okay, there. Fine. It doesn't matter that it enters tapped. We'll go to our next hand. We'll throw a mountain into play, and then we'll see. Okay, forest. Boom, we got saved. We'll go ahead and cast the Black Market Connections. Next turn, always full send the Black Market Connections in this deck. This is a glass cannon. We are here to be the problem. So let's make our Shapeshifter. Let's go ahead and add a treasure token, and then let's draw an additional card. Now, here's what we want to do. We're going to crack this, go get another green source for our Selvala. Enters the battlefield tapped. Let's get something that doesn't. I think we're on cards that don't enter tapped. Because I want to cast Selvala this turn to set up for a massive turn. Cinderglade, 2 or more basics. Yeah, we got that. Okay, and now we can go ahead and cast Selvala. Moving on. Boom. Reaver Cleaver. That's fine. Doesn't really matter. We will make another treasure token and draw another card, but we do not need another, what is it called? That's 12. Oops. Add token, treasure token. Why don't we'll just do this. That's fine. Okay, so we have 2 treasure tokens. We'll draw an additional card. Cost reducer, no cost reducer. That's fine. Turn 5, let's go ahead and deal combat damage with this guy right here. This guy deals combat damage. Then we cast a Dragon's Approach, dealing 3 damage to everybody. We are then going to crack treasure, play commander. Commander enters with 12 power. We draw a card. Okay. And then now we have a 12 power commander and a Savala. Crack our last treasure token to add 12 mana to our mana pool. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 mana floating. We'll use 4 of it. And then let's just sack our commander to draw 12 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, cool. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mana, cast our commander again. What do we think a reasonable Jeska's Will is right here? Just being honest. What do we think reasonable? Can we do, it's turn 5. We'll do Jeska's Will for 5. So 1, 2, 3. We'll add 5 mana with Jeska's Will. And then exile the top 3. Land, Soul Ring, Rishkar's Expertise. So we don't have, the only problem with Rishkar's Expertise here is we do not have a green mana source. We are out of our green mana sources, so Rishkar's Expertise is going to be depressing here. Commander's still 12. I'm trying to see if there's a way we can get green mana. I don't think it is. I think we just have to like let that go. We could look for Ruthless here, but even if we find Ruthless, we can't cast it because we're out of green mana. And this is one of the things. Oh, wait. We've got Big Score in hand. Okay, we've got Big Score in hand. So we can spend 4 mana for 2 mana, and that'll leave us with 3. Not great. Not great. I think we just have to go to our turn 6 here. We could spin our wheels a little bit more. 4. And then we have to discard a card. We'll discard this land or this Dragon's Approach and draw 1, 2. And more Dragon's Approaches. Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll cast this right here. And then that leaves us with 2 treasure tokens, but no mana to cast the Rishkar's Expertise. That goes to exile. And then we're just going to go to our next turn. And this is cool because we get to discard all of our Dragon's Approaches except for 1. And when we view all, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Dragon's Approach. And this says, name a Dragon's Approach from your graveyard. Do you search your library for a dragon? Oh wait, if Dragon's Approach and 4 cards. So, okay, so we get it on our next cast. I thought it was 6 this whole time. That is a problem. But, okay, let's go on to our next turn. People are going to get mad at me if I didn't discard the hand size, so we'll do that. Okay, cool. This is what we'll have. And then we'll draw a card and create another treasure token. So we have 3 treasure tokens because we had 2 off of the thing. All right, and then what we'll do here is we'll actually 1, 2, 3 equip the Reaver Cleaver to our commander, and then we will use one of the treasure tokens to tap Savala to cheat this guy into play. That's going to add 12 mana to our mana pool. And then that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could spend 2 more on the Skullspore Nexus. And then the remaining 2 mana to tap it. And then turn this guy into a 24/24. So 24/24 commander. He attacks, generates 24 treasure tokens. So this is going to go to 26. Not to mention we just killed a player, right? We just killed a player. That player is dead. And then Clouth is going to add 24 mana to our mana pool. So we essentially have infinite mana here. And then we can cast a Dragon's Approach, view our library, and then let's grab Old Corvold. And now we have 26 treasure tokens and Corvold on the battlefield. I could play it through for you here, but with Corvold on the battlefield, 26 treasure tokens, and then 24 mana off of Clouth, you win the game. Especially when we could sack our commander right here and draw another 24 cards. So we can draw upwards to 50 cards this turn just by sacking our commander and sacking every treasure token. And then Korvold would have 30 power, and then we're just looking for Chandra's Ignition to win the game. And we kill the player. So all of these things are true. The deck's pretty good. And remember, that wasn't like the ideal hand. It was like a slower one because our plan was to wait turn 3 to cast a Black Market Connections. And you can just get into like some way faster hands that have a lot of cost reducers. I'm not going to run through any more today just because we're running short on time. But again, don't forget to like the crap out of this video and comment below if you enjoy the decks or the videos like this. And yeah, I would like to shout out my patrons, Excessum, Newsome, Creator, and Chicken Salad. You guys are amazing. I will see you guys in the next one, and I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors.